Welcome to Behind the Mic, where the subjects are audiobooks and the actors who narrate them. I'm Joe Reed. Well, let's dedicate this podcast to Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, endings, doorways, transitions, and time. We have both an ending and an exciting beginning. As of January 1st, KirkusReviews is now AudioFile magazine's new home. Now, KirkusReviews has long been part of the book world. It's smart, readable, and very much part of the everyday conversation about books. But now it's become the new spot for audiobook reviews and conversation. Much of the AudioFile team is continuing with Kirkus. Jen Dow, long known to readers of AudioFile, has signed on as audiobook editor of KirkusReviews and will continue working with our great community of reviewers. And this podcast, Behind the Mic, has transitioned as well. We're now Behind the Mic by KirkusReviews. That's one change. Second change is our podcast now drops on Thursdays. But other than that, our team continues Behind the Mic with the contributors you've come to know, talking about some great audiobooks to listen to. So, with me to talk about this transition and how she's seen audiobooks evolve over time is the founder of AudioFile magazine, Robin Whitten.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
I am good.
A new year indeed, and many new chapters ahead.
Absolutely, Robin. After 220 issues and 34 years of reviewing audiobooks, why did you decide to fold AudioFile magazine into KirkusReviews?
Well, when I think about it, that's a lot of issues of the magazine and 60,000 plus audiobook reviews. And, 35 years ago, I had a bit more energy, strangely. And, I think it was time to find a new future for audiophile and for having a new life for audiobook reviews. And Kirkus seemed like the perfect partner for that.
How did we get here? Go back a little bit with how you got the idea for AudioFile magazine to begin with all that time ago.
Well, we always talk about that it's the listening experience that is most important. And that was as a listener in early 1990s. That's what I was. I listened to audiobooks and I thought that they were new to me. And I thought, wow, this is so interesting how captivating what I'm hearing from a narrator involves me in a story and just grabs hold and doesn't let me go. Now, probably half the people that are listening to this episode have had the same thing, whether it's in a parking lot or, the driveway. You can't let go of the story. And that's what happened to me. And, 35 or more years ago. And I thought, oh, wow, the narrator makes the difference. It's the audio performance that holds me to the story. And so I chatted with the library director at the Portland Public Library about it, who was also a fan of audiobooks. And we said, yes, yes, it's a performance like a music performance or a theater performance. And that's the way it should be talked about. But it turned out hardly anyone was even talking about audiobooks in 1991. And nobody was talking about the performance aspects of it and exactly what the listener was experiencing. So, I don't know, with a crazy idea, I thought, oh, I could do a little newsletter about audiobooks from a performance point of view. So that's how it started. And it was started really as a newsletter, an 8-page newsletter.
That's remarkable because I think we've all had moments of realizing somebody should have a magazine about this, and then we all go on about our day and never think about it again. But you actually did it.
Yes, and then I had to hold on to that idea because not everyone thought it was a great idea. Why? People even in the audiobook world would say, "Well, why are you doing that?" Well, like it just seemed like what was needed to talk about the performance aspects, to talk about the storytelling of the narrators, and because that's what's unique about an audiobook. It's about the voice, right?
I agree. It's so interesting because for me, I'm an avid reader and I came to audiobooks, and it probably was in the 1990s. It was cassettes. So,
Yes,
yeah, probably
all
then.
those little bits of
And
cassettes everywhere.
yeah,
Yes.
because it was the only way I would go to a gym. Music was not doing it for me. I needed someone to tell me a story. And I was first going for the author, and then I had a couple of experiences where it was an author whose work I knew, but a narrator who was not very good. And I literally couldn't listen. And I realized, no, with this, it's the narrator. It's the voice that you're going for, not the text. We all prefer a great marriage of text and voice, bringing a book to a new level of richness, but it's not always the case. Not very good narrator can make a brilliant text, for me, impossible to listen to. But conversely, a great narrator can absolutely elevate a mediocre text.
Well, this is why we
Yeah.
need reviews. So, with all the time that has changed and all the other things in audiobooks that have changed, that focus of the listening experience, what is it? What is the narrator doing? Are they doing it well? Are they enriching the text? Are they captivating you with the characters? All those things, that has not changed at all.
But Lord knows the format has. We talked about those crazy cassettes,
Yes.
and I don't know about you, but how many snap tapes have you just almost fallen off your treadmill as the tape snaps?
Right, and actually, I was looking back, thinking about it, and there was an article about a librarian talking about, the Bible being, recorded on cassettes, and they actually had a suitcase of cassettes, and that's what you checked out, as a suitcase of cassettes of your recording of the Bible. I thought, "Wow, yeah. That that's a lot of cassettes to mix up between side 1 and side 2. And, I always thought this is the craziest way to listen, to experience a book. I mean, we don't take a print book and rip the chapters into sections and, stack them up. I don't know. Anyway, when the technology brought us along to from cassettes to CDs and then
That was a big
mm,
moment. Wait, I
it
just don't.
was.
I don't want to. I just don't want to go gliding by CDs. I, for one, appreciated them.
Well, one of the things that people, and I think still, if you were to compare a CD to either certainly better than a cassette, but even a digital audiobook, the sound quality of CDs was so excellent. It had a fidelity that we don't really often have now. Maybe if you have a big set of speakers and a fancy sound system, maybe it's better. But certainly, with a when you're walking in traffic and trying to listen with your earbuds in, the fidelity is not always perfect.
Nonetheless, it was very big. When did Audible start their self-contained player? When was that? Wow.
1997
Yeah.
was the first time, and that the part of the problem that I think held back the interest in audiobooks was, when there were cassettes or there were CDs, you also needed a player. You had to have the right player, and then you had to manipulate the media into the player and this sort of thing, so that the concept of the player and the cover on the book and everything contained, self-contained, was really brilliant. And that invention in 1997 by Audible revolutionized the whole industry.
Absolutely. And suddenly, you didn't necessarily need a driveway moment because you can take your driveway into the house with you. I
Right,
mean, there's
right.
there's no separation.
And then as it evolved, so now our little self-contained player is our cell phone. So it isn't even separate, it's always with us. And also, the other thing that I think is very convenient for a lot of people is the home devices where you can, have your audiobook playing while you're in the house, whether you're cooking or doing chores or, sorting laundry.
I was just going to say folding laundry. That's
Right, that's
mine.
it, that's it. But that's always with you, and that's just made a difference because, the technology is not in the way of our experience.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. It enhances it. And I think that also is why, when you think about the publishing industry, audiobooks is experiencing really dynamic
Oh,
growth.
tremendous growth. The use of audiobooks, the a number of audiobooks that are published. I mean, the growth has been on so many different levels. Growth of the number of audiobooks that are available, the audience is growing. The industry has grown for over a decade on all fronts. And there's still a tremendous amount of growth, for listeners and what to listen to. And of course, we still need reviews to find the good things. That's where we are.
No, absolutely. Yeah, they're a great roadmap. Which reminds me, how did you find your reviewers?
Oh, well, that's an interesting thing. I followed the sort of tradition in libraries. There's a long tradition of reader advisory. And so it's just like you come into any library and say, I'm looking for a book that's set in the Cotswolds in England, and I like mysteries. And, your reference librarian is going to be able to make some suggestions. And because of that, lots of librarians also do reviews of books and have for a long time. So when I had the idea for AudioFile, I thought, well, we'll find there are libraries collecting audiobooks, there are librarians who are trying to make these decisions about what's good for the collection. And that's where I started. And some of the people who are still reviewing with AudioFile and now with Kirkus audiobook reviews have been doing it for over 30 years.
And what are the qualifications now as you reached out beyond that? What had you been looking for in reviewers?
Well, one of the things that I always say is that you have to be an avid listener. That seems fairly obvious, but it's not like being an avid reader who then is going to review audiobooks. Not the same thing. You have to be an avid and experienced listener who has listened to a lot of different productions, heard lots of different styles, and has an ear, if you will, to the nuances of the performance so that you can recognize certain qualities of a storyteller. You can describe what the emotional content is that you may be feeling, which is, something that the narrator has created. And describe that sort of storytelling for someone else, because that's what we're doing is we're trying to give people to know what that experience is going to be.
And while that's remained constant, so many change of platforms or multiplication of platforms to reach audiences, from newsletter to print magazine,
Right.
the website.
Well, that was one of the interesting challenges over the years with AudioFile magazine is that we started in print, and that was sort of it was a newsletter and then it was a real magazine, but even at a time when magazines were more popular and available for different ways in bookstores and I also felt like there were other ways as email newsletters became more popular. We used email newsletters to reach people. And then, as you say, the website. And then also, more recently, the podcast, as you know, because we've done that together.
Yes, we have since 2018. How many you
I
said
don't know.
you,
It's
you
like,
you found this out for me? It's like more than 1,670
yes,
episodes, which is
yes.
amazing.
It's a lot of conversations about audiobooks, but I think, there are lots of ways that people get recommendations for what they want to read. Same thing. There are lots of ways to give recommendations and reviews of what people should consider listening to.
I wonder how you've seen narration changed perhaps over the years, maybe stylistically? How have you seen it change?
Well, it's interesting because I think some styles come and go a little bit, if you will. The idea in the early 1990s of a dramatized performance was, except for audio drama, but a emotional content in a performance, was not a style that was very prevalent until early 1990s. There was a preference for a very, what I would call, flat reading style, just without any emotion. That has shifted tremendously, so that, and there were a lot of narrators who pioneered in that style of bringing more emotion, if you will, or emotional connection to the author's work, because it isn't always like big emotions. It's like it to me, it's the connection that a the emotional connection that a narrator can make with the author's
Hmm.
work, and that can be very subtle, or it can be very big, just like any kind of a performance. It can be big or it can be quiet, and it can be very subtle. And those styles have evolved a bit. Now I think we see a lot of audio theater, audio drama being popular, which would be something that has, a cast, lots of sound effects, a big performance that brings in a lot of elements beside a single voice. Meanwhile, the single voice performance exists alongside that. Some people prefer one over the other. I love to see the variety.
I agree. AI is posing a singular threat to narrators. I mean, and this obviously deserves a larger discussion, but I wonder if you can just briefly touch on it.
Well, my point of view on this is that, since probably the book is written by a human, that it deserves a human voice. And if ChatGPT wrote your book, then probably AI is okay. Because it's going to be very compatible. But while we have humans, then we have humans writing, we need humans narrating those audiobooks.
Robin, what's next for you? I know you're stepping back now, but what are you thinking about going forward?
Well, even if I don't have quite as much energy to go on with all the parts of the magazine, I still have a lot of energy and enthusiasm for audiobook narrators. So I have started a project with Laura Rossi and Michelle Cobb to do a project called Voices to Know, which is a community of narrators centered on the human voice, just as what we're saying. And it will be also a professional area for people casting audiobooks, as well as a fun site for fans to read about their favorite narrators and some of the up and coming rising stars of audiobooks.
Finally, what do you find exciting when you're looking ahead at audiobooks and the work narrators are doing?
Well, there'll always be a new voice, won't there? To hear and to captivate you with a new story, or, to revisit a favorite. There's so many stories, voices, and audiobooks out there. And I look forward to having many new people entering the industry, being professional audiobook narrators, new fans in the world of listening to all of these voices, and just the the elevation of the audiobook format as being important, being different, all the aspects that I loved about them 35 years ago. They still go on.
Well, Robin, thank you so much. It really has been such a pleasure working with you over the years, and I will miss working with you, and I hope you'll occasionally come back as a guest on the podcast.
Well, I'd love to. I'd love to.
And I'm just thrilled that everything is continuing on Kirkus Reviews because I think, you created a wonderful future for that idea you hatched over 30 years ago.
That's true. You know, uh, Kirkus Audiobook Reviews is a wonderful future for everything that is a continuation of the idea from the 1990s.
Robin, thank you so much. And I really do look forward to having you back as a guest.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. We are very excited to join Kirkus Media, which is home to one of my favorite podcasts, Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. Every Tuesday, Kirkus editors and host Megan Labrise bring you author interviews, industry insights, and recommendations from the bestseller list. Find your next great book on Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. Follow Fully Booked on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. And stop by KirkusReviews.com to check out reviews for both print and audiobooks. Don't forget, follow Behind the Mic wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating. It does help people to find us. This has been Behind the Mic by Kirkus Reviews. Behind the Mic is produced by Jessica Lockhart. Robin Whitten, Michelle Cobb, Stephen Cummings, Leslie Fine, Alan Minskoff, Alex Ritchie, Laura Rossi, and Kendra Winchester are our contributors. Jennifer Dell is our editor with help from Alicia Langerman. And Tom Beer is the executive producer. The music is William Ross Chernoff's Nomads 4-Way, and I'm your host, Joe Reed. Good listening.